And then I bought a Super Nintendo at a garage sale for
Mm-hmm.
$50 with 10 games, where the Rambo is cleaning the streets while also baking cookies and trying to start a cookie business. But then you're always going to be known as the guy that has the shits.
How's it going? Welcome to Chats with Spencer. For interviews just like this one, full of fun and interesting questions, subscribe. New videos every Tuesday and Friday. My guest today is a speedrunner who I discovered from his legendary Pepsiman run. This Friday, he will be taking part in a speedrunning event, the Valuethon, which is raising money for Save the Children. And that will go until Sunday. So please check out the event, donate, because it's for a great cause. So sit back and enjoy my interview with Boyks. Boyks, thank you so much for being here. How's it going today?
That's going well.
Awesome. Well, let's just get things started with. So, Boyks, can you maybe just tell us a little bit about where you grew up, what kind of kid you were, and the things you were interested in?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Midwest of US, so very small town,
Okay.
maybe a couple thousand people total.
Whoa, whoa.
And yeah, that's the type of environment where you kind of just know everybody in town and everybody
Mm-hmm.
knows you, which was interesting. But it was also an air-based town, so there's a lot of people coming and going,
Okay.
and a lot of friends coming and going as you're growing up. But yeah, as far as like what type of kid I was, I loved to play video games, obviously. I played a ton of them. My uh, first games were on PC. We had an old Apple II that we set up in our basement, and I thought I was the coolest kid ever because I hooked it up to a TV. And you'd put in your floppy disk, play your
Mm-hmm.
Carmen San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
Oregon Trail and all that. Um, and then moved up to an NES at some point with Duck Hunt. Played a lot of Mario on that. Um, PC played a lot of like Wolfenstein and Doom. I was
Mm-hmm.
huge into Doom. When I was a kid, when I was like 9 or 10, I was making Doom maps.
Oh,
Actually,
nice.
like just
Mm-hmm.
making my own maps. They weren't
Mm-hmm.
good, but I was doing that. So like gaming's just kind of been a thing, and it's kind of how I grew up and got friends. To be
Okay.
honest,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I've been that throughout.
Okay, okay. Well, I mean, you kind of just touched upon it, but just your
Yeah.
whole video game story. You kind of said you were a PC gamer, and then console gamer, and then kind of PC.
Mhm.
But what was like? Can you just kind of like give us like a quick rundown, kind of on maybe like the consoles you owned, and maybe like the games that really stand out to you, that really defined you as
Yeah.
a gamer?
So part of being in a small town and
Okay.
also being a kid
Mm-hmm.
is yeah, you tend to just have specific game consoles, and then that was what you played, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
so part of branching out and playing other consoles was getting friends that had other consoles.
It's true. Yeah,
So
yeah. I know the
you
feeling.
could go to other people's
Mm-hmm.
houses and play.
Mm-hmm.
So I had an NES, I had a
Mm-hmm.
Super Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
My friend has a Genesis, an
Okay.
Xbox, a GameCube. I ended up getting an Xbox 360. So like we
Okay.
kind of just got consoles that each of us didn't have, so that we
Okay,
could
that's
go
fair.
over to each other's house to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
share, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we did. And then when we wanted to play a console, you would just move 3 blocks
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to go play the other one. Um, so the ones that I had, yeah, we had an NES.
Mm-hmm.
That was great. I don't. Most of my time with that was played with my sister growing up, and we really bonded over Super Mario Brothers 3.
Okay.
Actually,
Mm-hmm.
was the game that we played a lot together. Um, and then I bought a Super Nintendo at a garage sale for
Mm-hmm.
$50 with 10 games.
That's a steal.
Yeah. And I played a lot of Super Mario All
Mm-hmm.
Stars, Donkey Kong Country. Um, One game I got really good at that I wish I didn't was Toy Story because that game sucks. It's not very good. But you played what you had, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then my brother eventually got a PlayStation at some point, so I played a bit of that. Although I couldn't really get into the RPGs at the time. I think I was a little too young for like Final
That's
Fantasy
fair.
7.
Yeah.
But I was playing like, you know, Twisted Metal, Vigilante 8, the Carmageddon type of games.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that was great. And then eventually I turned into a Halo kid, and then I got out of Halo.
Mhm.
You know, like so, bit of a journey there. But it really ultimately revolved around what my friends had and what we wanted to play together,
Okay.
more than like individual experiences.
Okay. Would you consider yourself more of a console gamer than a PC gamer?
Right now I would just say I game.
Okay. Okay.
I'll play it anywhere. Like
Okay.
here, one second.
Oh yeah, no, of
So
course.
this is my stream setup. I'll
Mm-hmm.
show you. So PS3,
Mm-hmm.
PlayStation Classic,
Mm-hmm.
PS2, 360, GameCube, Switch, Wii
Mm-hmm.
U, Game Boy Player. I have a Genesis hooked up
mm-hmm.
in, or not hooked up, but it's in my closet over here. So, like, but I play a ton of PC games too.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
just kind of, I like games, I
Well,
guess.
that's fair.
Yeah.
We're gonna just talk a little bit about music, Boyks. Do you have a song maybe from your childhood that you just have like a very vivid memory of, and it kind of like resonates with you? Maybe it's a song someone in your family played, you heard it on the radio, but for some reason it's just kind of like I know this song really well.
Yeah. So we used to go on road trips a lot,
Okay.
like once a summer,
Mm-hmm.
basically,
Yeah. Yeah. Fair
maybe
enough.
for a week. And my dad used to play a lot of Rolling Stones in the
Okay.
car. So, yeah, basically, what was the You Can't Always Get What You Want,
Okay.
from the Let It Bleed album. So he would play that tape a lot when we were on trips, just because I think it's a good album and it's a long song.
Mm-hmm.
But I have some good memories of that.
Nice. And just kind of as a follow up, do you remember the first album you ever bought, asked for, or downloaded?
Um, yeah, the first album I ever purchased with my own money was the Weezer Green album,
Ooh.
I want to say.
Ooh, nice, nice.
And then I think it was Cake Pressure Chief after that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. The first one I ever downloaded was whatever parody song on Napster was labeled Weird Al that wasn't Weird Al. Because any parody song got labeled Weird Al on the list at some point and then redistributed. Yeah. But I don't know. I was really into I don't know if it was really like alt rock at the time, but I was kind of a classic rock kid for a
Okay.
while. So I was that kid that always wore the, Pink Floyd shirts or
Yes. Okay.
whatever. Who didn't really have any personality outside of their shirts, but whatever. And then I eventually expanded my music at some
Okay.
point, but yeah.
All right. So, Boyks, if you could teach anybody outside of the speedrunning community about speedrunning, doesn't have to be necessarily a game you speedrun, but just like introduce them to the whole concept of speedrunning and get them to speedrunning a game they enjoy, who would that be
Yeah.
and why?
If I could get anybody to speedrun, or like how would I do it?
No, anybody. Just like choose a person.
Choose a person?
So someone maybe you think would be interested in it, maybe good at it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's tough because a lot of the friends I have are speedrunners. A lot of the content creators I listen to are kind of into gaming in general.
Okay.
Maybe I would pick somebody who has like a really good personality and kind of a bit of an outreach, who could put a positive spin on it. Someone like Felicia Day, maybe.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Or maybe even somebody like Patton Oswalt.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a really positive experience and kind of be a good like outreach for the community.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if you could visit any time period, so you're in a bubble, you're invisible to the rest of the world, you're safe, but you can observe anything, where would you travel in time and why?
I think one thing that would be really fun to experience would be like the early World's Fairs.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Being able to kind of see what they thought the future would be like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and like this is the wave of the future,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna have electric stoves and all like the mundane things that we kind of take for granted now that they were like dreaming far off
Yeah.
into the way future of, and just kind of see how people dreamed about that and
Okay.
what they were hoping to see. I think that'd be really fun. Plus you get like a nice experience of sort of a 1900 style fair, which would be interesting to walk around in and just get food and kind of see what's going on.
And you mentioned in our previous interview that you're into modding like video game consoles. So how did that kind of come about? Was it something you always kind of enjoyed, kind of like tinkering around with electronics, or is it just something
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So I have a comp sci degree,
Oh, okay.
bachelor's. So my initial study was more on a hardware level in programming,
Mm-hmm.
back in college. So that involved a lot of like breadboarding and messing with circuitry and learning
Mm-hmm.
how they work. That got me interested in learning how to like repair some of my consoles.
Mm-hmm.
I had an old Game Boy that needed some repair,
Mm-hmm.
at the time, which I had from my childhood, and I actually still have. It's just heavily modified now. But I started opening that up. I got a little nervous. I didn't really know what to do. I did like a really, really simple thing, like a shell cleaning,
Okay.
basically, and just removing battery acid from it and putting it back, like really basic stuff. But it
Okay.
felt super accomplishing to just be like, oh, I can do this,
Mm-hmm.
right? So eventually I started moving further out when I started seeing what people were doing and that there were um, custom shells and parts and stuff out there that you could buy that
Mm-hmm.
you didn't necessarily have to just paint and modify yourself, right? So it made it much more accessible and easy to get into the modding scene. And there's something sort of artistic about it too, which I think
Yes.
is really cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can sort of express yourself with what you're creating in an electronic field rather than with a paintbrush. Even though I like
Mm-hmm.
painting also. Um, so being able to do that and express myself and make something cool while mashing it with the gaming I enjoy and the
Mm-hmm.
electronics I think are interesting, it kind of just fell together. So yeah, that's been really good.
Any projects you're working on right now that you can share with us?
Yeah, I have a Game Boy I'm modding right now, which was a commission from a friend.
Okay.
She wanted me to set up a IPS v3 LCD screen on it,
Okay.
and sort of give it a nice new shell and
Mm-hmm.
buttons and everything. So that'll be interesting. I have a buddy who wanted me to help fix a Dreamcast that he was working on, as well as put a like an SD card reader in it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So replacing the disk drive, so you can
Mm-hmm.
just read from an SD card.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then a Game Gear, which has the sound broken on it. So,
Okay.
buddy wanted me to fix that, put a new lens on it, so it's like a glass lens instead of the old
Mm-hmm.
plastic scratched one. And that'll be interesting because I'm gonna have to take out all of the individual capacitors on the
Mm-hmm.
soundboard and then solder in some new ones to fix it. But yeah, those are my current projects. Um, I kind of want to work on another artsy Game Boy at some point here. I made a 70s wooden Game Boy with
Oh,
like
nice.
a 70s stripe
Mm-hmm.
across it.
Mm-hmm.
I've made a Vaporwave Game Boy randomly that I designed, and I had a UV printed shell. My current plan is to sort of experiment more with acrylics
Mm-hmm.
and actually painting on the shell,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe do some like spray painting and everything like that. So we'll see. Get artsy, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to switch pace just a little bit. We're just going to do some less in-depth questions, but if you want to stop and elaborate, 100% stop me.
Sure.
Do you have a favorite sports team?
I am actually not a fan of sports.
That's all good.
Yeah, I don't really watch sports.
That's okay. Cats or dogs?
My cat's gonna be upset, but I do like dogs a bit better. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Spring or fall?
I guess I'd go with fall. Yeah, fall has the Halloween motif, which is really
Mm-hmm.
fun. It's getting a little bit colder in the year, which is fine, but you also get to see a lot of nature changing in a way that I think is
Yes.
really visually interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates a lot of good experiences to get out into the wild, go to the forest or
Mm-hmm.
something, and just go out and see the world a bit. That spring's a little more wet, unfortunately for so. Yeah,
M&M's or Skittles?
I'd go M&Ms.
One of your favorite movies.
Sorry,
One of your favorite movies.
one of my favorite movies. Um, I would go with the movie Tracks. Tracks, Traxx, is a movie about a Rambo spin-off where the Rambo is cleaning the streets while also baking cookies and trying to start a cookie business. And it also features the famous Amos in it.
Ooh.
It's very good.
I will definitely put that on the list to watch because that sounds very
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
If your next meal could be anything in the world, what would it be?
Um, hmm. I guess I would go with a like a shrimp fettuccine alfredo. Yeah.
When you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up?
So that changed a lot.
Okay.
Um, I guess I kind of wanted to go into something a little bit more physical than like computers. I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking I would be more of like a fireman or something like that,
Okay.
I guess.
Okay.
And then eventually it turned more towards gaming. Actually, when I went to college, I went for a chemistry degree, but I suck at chemistry. Like,
Okay.
and then I went for physics, which I
Mm-hmm.
love physics, uh, but there isn't really a job for it outside
Mm-hmm.
of like teaching
That's
in
fair.
the place where I grew up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it was sort of like being taught to teach, which is fine. I don't mind teaching,
Mm-hmm.
but I ended up moving towards comp sci after that, which just fit, I guess, a little bit better.
What's your go-to snack at a convenience store?
Mm. There's some, what is it? It's like Andy Cap's cheese fries, I think is what they're
Okay.
called. They're
Okay.
just like a cheesy potato stack. Yeah,
Okay.
they're good.
Uh, what was one of your favorite childhood TV shows?
Oh man, I watch so much Pokemon. I used to get up every single morning on the weekend,
Hmm.
like 6 a.m. on Saturday to catch the Fox morning stuff so I could watch like X-Men and Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, of course,
And
so
then I would
classic.
roll that into the Pokemon because they showed 2 episodes back to
Hmm.
back.
Hmm.
So I would just sit there for like 3 or 4 hours watching cartoons. But Pokemon was one I made sure to catch up on.
Okay,
Also because it was the big craze at the time, so I was talking constantly with all my friends at school about Pokemon. Yeah,
that's fair.
yeah,
Okay, and just what are some of your all-time favorite video games?
yeah. Favorite video games. I really, really liked actually from newer games. Paper Mario and the Origami King
Okay.
is really, really good.
Hmm.
I feel like a lot of people don't give some of the newer Paper Marios a chance because they just really liked A Thousand Year Door,
That's fair. Yeah.
and the series kind of changed since then.
Mm.
But that was just really funny writing. It made me cry. A Mario game made me cry.
Ooh, yeah, Mario.
That shouldn't happen.
Hmm.
That game's really good. Um, what are other? There's a ton of games I just really, really liked. Um, it's hard to pick favorites because there's just so many good ones.
Maybe you just list good ones too.
Yeah, I like Pepsiman,
Yep.
obviously. I've played it probably 1,000 times. The original Doom. Still play a lot of
Hmm.
Doom. Heroes Might and Magic 3.
Okay.
That game's really, really good, just like Age of Empires 2. That sucked up a lot of my life when I was a kid. Um, Yeah, I guess we'll start there.
Yeah, no, that's a good start. And what video game has the best storyline?
Mm, that's interesting. Also, I really like Life is Strange. Life is Strange.
Okay, all
The
right.
first Life is Strange. That's a 5 episode series game,
Mm-hmm.
Telltale-like, but not made by Telltale.
Okay.
But it covers some very deep personal topics,
Mm-hmm.
both about growing up and about uh, sort of like abuse and depression and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. I feel like it just hits those topics really well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, from a newer release, and this is more music based, Sayonara Wild Hearts, I think tells a really good story in like a 45-minute to an hour pop album.
Mm-hmm.
So that one's really good. Um, I've been playing through Nier Automata recently. That game has a super good story as well. Same with Soma. So if you're into more sci-fi stories, anyway.
Okay. And how about best soundtrack? Video game soundtrack.
Yeah, Sayonara Wild Hearts has an amazing
Okay.
soundtrack
Okay. Okay.
for the pop album.
Mm-hmm.
I guess like Shantae Half Genie Hero. I really like the Shantae music.
Mm-hmm.
That one's very good. Yeah,
Well,
we'll go
that's
with that.
fine.
Yeah.
And this question is, what is the best speedrun you've ever seen? And it doesn't have to be in person, it could just be in general, but if you want to do one in person and one just in general, that's fine too.
Yeah, best speed run. I really like the Super Highlight run. Super Highlight is an absolutely miserable game
Mm-hmm.
that like barely works, but seeing that in a speedrun format is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just interesting to see how people take on something so atrocious and boil it down to
Mm-hmm.
something like as basic as you do this, you do that. This is
Mm-hmm.
why this happens. So that's really cool. I also like seeing a lot of the like Mega Man 2 zip
Oh, yes.
runs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Being able to see people like just zip around the screen
Mm-hmm.
on an
Mm-hmm.
NES is just really cool and interesting. Yeah.
All right. So, Boyks, maybe you can tell us a bit more about your speed running story. How did you get into it? What was the first speed run you saw? That kind of thing.
Sure. So back before Twitch,
Mm-hmm.
um, the website that used to be more popular for that was Speed Demos Archives,
Okay.
SDA, which actually was an early, I guess, presence in the GDQ scene
Oh. Okay.
uh, before they moved on to kind of doing their own
Mm-hmm.
thing. But Speed Demo Archive was there. There was also task videos. So what I used to do back in like the mid 2000s was just scan their websites for games that I liked
Mm-hmm.
and download videos to a hard drive that I could watch
Okay.
because that was the only way to watch
Mm-hmm.
speedruns.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube wasn't really like super popular either at the time,
Yeah,
so it was
understandable.
more you had to find it. So
Mm-hmm.
I would download task videos of like Super Mario World doing like small only, and I'm like, whoa, you can beat that game only as small Mario? That's insane. How do people do that, man? like, um, and yeah, so I would go through that. I would download those videos, but at the time I was just a viewer, right? I was a
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
speedrun fan. I wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
speedrunner. So I started hearing about GDQ and how these marathons were going on, and people were like sitting around on a couch and playing on a stream, and I thought that was really cool. So I decided I would go to an event as a fan, just to
Okay.
kind of hang out and see
Mm-hmm.
it. I think that was AGDQ 2016 was the
Okay.
first one I went to. And I just knew a couple friends in the scene that I watched on Twitch at the time. So I was like, oh, I'll just go hang out with them and maybe see if the event's cool or not. And I applied to host. So I was actually hosting that year for like an 8 hour block,
Oh,
which is a
nice.
long time to host for. And they asked me if it was a long time, and I'm like, no, it's fine. It was a long time. But that experience of just being around some really positive, really cool people that were
Mm-hmm.
super passionate about the games they were
Yes.
playing and really excited to talk about them and share those experiences got me interested in thinking that, oh, I can do this too. So I went back home that weekend and I started routing out a game that I wanted to speedrun.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was actually really into card games at the time.
Okay.
So the first game that I decided to speedrun was actually Magic the Gathering Chandelar, which is an old
Interesting.
PC game.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially a Magic the Gathering roguelike, where you go around and try to defeat 5 bosses and then a
Mm-hmm.
final boss in a randomly generated map with
Mm-hmm.
random cards that you get. So it's like a really terrible thing to speedrun, like if you've never speedrun anything before, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Awful. But I really was passionate about both games, the card game and that PC game at the time. So I started routing that out, and that kind of built a community around that with my card game community I already had at the time. And that got me really interested in checking out other games, like Caro Blaster, which was a platformer that I
Okay.
played at the time, and then eventually Pepsiman, which I did
Mm-hmm.
as a joke, and then just ended up really liking it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's kind of been my journey, and then just jumping from game to game after that. I don't really like stick with one game super long. I tend to just pick different games that I feel are interesting to play through, rather than just grind the same game over and over and over again necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
But Pepsi Man kind of became one that I ended up doing for marathons a lot, so that was one that kept in the rotation longer. Yeah,
Okay, that's fair.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I was gonna ask you specifically about Pepsi Man, just because
Mm.
I mean, you have to see it to believe it, kind of thing, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't do justice by explaining it, and the ridiculousness of that run and the comedy,
Mhm.
and um, but like, how did it feel to bring that to the AGDQ stage? Like the biggest speedrunning stage, and you're playing Pepsi Man. And I'm not even like exaggerating.
Yeah.
In my mind, it's up there as one of the top runs. Like I see Zallard's blindfolded Super Punch Out, and then there's like
Oh yeah.
your first Pepsi Man run was just like so memorable in a different way.
Well, I appreciate that. That was an interesting experience because that was my first GDQ run.
Mhm.
Um, Before then, I just sort of hosted and
Yes.
gone, as a viewer and a fan. So when I went, I didn't really have a lot of time to plan for it. I had only been able to get to SGDQ the night before at
Okay.
like 9 p.m.
Hmm.
I immediately crashed, got up, and then my run was in like 8 hours, right?
Hmm.
So I had no time to real practice or like get my nerves out. My buddy uh, Frozen ended up
Hmm.
getting in the Pepsi Man costume just because he happened to own one, and he also works for Pepsi.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's just like
That works.
serendipitous.
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, man, let's do it. And we ended up getting uh, Grand Pooh Bear and a bunch of
Yeah.
other random people
Hmm.
that just like said they wanted to be on the couch. So it
Hmm.
was just kind of all thrown together at the last minute. But what was interesting about it is they scheduled me during prime time,
Hmm.
right after Mario Maker,
Yeah.
which is a really big game at the
Yes.
time.
Mm.
So I'm sitting there outside of the room, the stream
Mm.
room, with Frozen in his Pepsi Man costume. You can't see anything
Yeah.
because you can't see through that latex
Mm.
costume. And we're both sort of standing near the stage door because what
Hmm.
we're expecting is that the entire room leaves an
Yeah. Mm.
exodus.
Mm. Mm.
Because we like, who the hell is gonna watch Pepsi Man? Who gives a crap, right?
Mm.
Like, if you put me up after Mario Maker and before Ocarina of Time, what are you doing, right? So we're sitting there waiting by the door and nobody leaves, and we're very confused. And we get on stage, and it's just sort of this weird, like, exciting moment from the
Mhm.
crowd. I think
Mhm.
it just kind of all came together
Mhm.
at the moment. Of people are like, "Whoa, what's this? Whoa, this seems cool." And I decided, like, rather than trying to be really like straightforward and this is the strat and this is what I
Mhm.
do, I just have fun with it,
Yeah.
right? Like, just
Mhm.
let the nervousness go,
Mhm.
and just enjoy myself. And I think that kind
Yeah.
of showed on screen. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I totally got that feeling from your
yeah.
run. And I just got to ask, do you actually enjoy Pepsi?
I used to drink a lot of soda and Pepsi, but I've actually given up soda in the last year. So
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. And just kind of as a follow up, were you a big Magic the Gathering fan in your life at some point, or are you still a Magic the Gathering fan?
yeah, so I played Magic from when I was like 7. I actually started with the Pokemon card game,
Okay.
and then my brother got me into Magic with a starter deck. And then I ended up moving to playing other things than Magic in like 2018.
Okay.
So it was a long period of my life of going to the card store to play Magic, and then I've eventually stopped playing. So
Okay. No, I'm just curious because
yeah,
I used to play Magic too, and I feel like everyone or a lot of people have played Magic at one point in their life. It's always just kind of interesting to hear their
yeah.
story. Okay, so what's something you know now, Boyks, that you wish you kind of knew earlier in life?
It's how you become successful
Mm-hmm.
is not always based entirely on your own merits and what you do. Some of it's just straight luck,
Oh yes.
for sure. And the people that are willing to accept that they got lucky and that it wasn't just straight up hard work
Mm-hmm.
are the people that are worth hanging around with,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest. A little bit of humbleness is good there. And not being so hard on yourself for putting in all the work and time and not getting there, just being willing to pick yourself up and keep going is a really useful life skill.
And is there one thing you would like to achieve in your lifetime? And this is not limited to the realm of speedrunning.
My achievements are more like day to day,
Okay, that's fair.
to be fair. Um, One thing I want to do, not necessarily achieve,
Mm-hmm.
is I want to learn Japanese
Okay.
enough so that I can go to Japan and actually converse.
That's fair.
Um, there's a lot of like cool arcades and places I want to go to and experience. And traveling abroad in general seems like something I want to do.
Okay.
Um, but I just haven't had enough money or time or whatever to really do so. Um, the achievement I go for every day is just to make someone's day better. I think that's a worthy enough goal.
And I guess you kind of touched upon this just in that previous answer, but what are some words of wisdom, saying you like, or just a saying you enjoy that you maybe try to live by?
So Anthony Bourdain actually said this in an interview, and I just listened to it recently. And I thought it was really funny, but also really good. Um, when you are finally being somewhat successful,
Okay.
so like you've written a book,
Mm-hmm.
you've uh, started a TV show, and someone comes to you with an idea, it's not always best to go for the short-term gains. Um, you kind of want to push yourself for more long-term gains and long-term support. So, for instance, if somebody comes to you when you have that TV show and they're like, "Hey, I have this anti-diuretic medication, and I want you to be a spokesperson for it. I'll give you
Mm-hmm.
$1 million." $1 million might seem good in the short term, but then you're always going to be known as the guy that has the shits.
Yeah.
That's a lifelong thing.
Mm.
So is that really worth $1 million, right? I thought that was a really funny quote, and it's something to think about. Like uh, a lot of people tend to go for just short-term benefits of,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that could be like screwing somebody over, you know, just to get ahead um, in something, and then that comes back to bite you, a year or two later when that
Mm-hmm.
person is also part of a community that you want to get into, or
Mm-hmm.
or like always trying to plan ahead a bit for yourself in a way that benefits you in the long term is generally better than just taking those short hops.
Well, maybe you can let us know where we can find you on Twitch, on social media, and if you have any upcoming projects.
Yeah, you can find me at twitch.tv/the Boyks. Twitter is at @the_Boyks because I can't get the Boyks because it's some 60-year-old dude who hasn't logged into his Twitter account in 10 years. that they won't give me.
Mhm.
I'm very upset about it. You can also find I have music on Bandcamp, boyks.bandcamp.com.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I think that's the major ones. If you want to catch any upcoming projects, I'm working on organizing a marathon, speedrun marathon called
Oh,
Valuethon.
okay.
So that's twitch.tv/Valuethon. That'll be happening in March, March 19th to the 21st. And that'll be raising money for Save the Children. So that'll
Okay.
be good.
Awesome. Well, Boyks, thank you so much for chatting with me. It was really cool and fun learning a little bit more about you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Well, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe for new videos every Tuesday and Friday. Check out Boyks at all the social media. It will be in the description put down below. Check out his Pepsiman run. Legendary. Seriously, it will be in the description as well. Please
Yeah.
take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next video.